malnutrition. Okay, sounds like she's grounded in science. That's good. These are the people who support her and the work that she's doing. Bayer, Monsanto, DuPont, Calorie Council, Control Council, Cotton Incorporated, which is a big GMO crop, U.S. Farmers Ranch, and much more. And this is really where she works, the Genetic Literacy Project, which is a fantastic group. It's helping us become more literate about genetics. Jeff should be happy about that. Well, the truth is, it's started by a guy named John Esteen, who was part of the American Enterprise Institute, which is a right-wing group that actively seeks and funds scientists to show that global warming is a hoax, to promote the benefits of GMO. This is funded in large part by Monsanto. So this is a problem, and it sounds great. This is her bio, Genetic Literacy Project, but where is she really coming from? All right, let's look at policy now for a bit. So we know that our science is corrupt, that our public health organizations are corrupt, that our professional societies are not full of integrity, and that they have kind of controlling the media on this. Now let's look at policy, because what happens is our nutrition science recommendations get translated into policy that then results in all of our food programs and the guidelines developed by professional societies and the recommendations of what people eat in hospitals. And I'm in a Cleveland Clinic, and I'm still working on changing what they feed people. You know, when you have a heart transplant or bypass, you get pancakes and syrup for breakfast and orange juice and maybe some green Jell-O. Was green Jell-O invented for hospitals? I don't know. And then they have all these products that are like Ensure and Boost that are high fructose corn syrup, that are processed dairy, that are high in refined oils, soybean oil. I mean, it's not so great. Now, what's interesting is in 2015, we had our dietary guidelines. Under G.W. Bush, he transferred the final say on what the dietary guidelines would show from the Scientific Dietary Advisory Committee, which, by the way, has problems, to political appointees. So all of a sudden, the integrity of the process was threatened, and now we have political appointees guiding the science. In fact, this is one of them right here. Kaylee, she's a USDA policy advisor appointed by President Trump to oversee the dietary guidelines. She had to be given a waiver by Don McGahn to take the position because of the conflict of interest issue. She was the head of PR and policy for the Corn Refiners Association. She worked for the Snack Food Association. I mean, this doesn't fly, really. Now, if you think one person can make a difference, this is an example of how one person can. Nina Teicholz, some people agree with her, don't. She wrote The Big Fat Surprise and about the failure of nutrition science to truly indict saturated fats and challenges some of our notions about diet. But she went to Congress, and she literally was a single-person lobbying group. Now, the challenge is that the food lobby is so powerful that they spend so much money lobbying Congress that congressmen and senators are not used to people, independent people. When I was down there during the health reform under Obama, going from Senate office to, I mean, we met with everybody. We met with the White House head of policy. We met with Zeke Emanuel. We met with the head of Health and Human Services, with Max Baucus, who was the head of the Senate group on health, and with Charles Rangel, who was working on appropriations. And, we met with pretty much everybody who's anybody who was involved in health reform. And we'd walk in, and they'd go, okay, well, what group are you from? What organization do you represent? I'm like, nobody. I was with Dean Ornish and Mike Roizen at the time. We're like just representing the people in the science, our patients in the science. They're like, mm-mm. I said, all we want to do is turn science into policy. And Tom Harkin was like, wow, that would make too much sense. So too bad he's gone. Anyway, Nina went down there, and she got Congress to appropriate $1 million for the National Academy of Sciences to investigate the credibility, accuracy of the dietary guidelines. And what they found was that most of the members on the committee, 10 out of 14 members, had consulting arrangements or had funding from the food industry, like the Dairy Council, and that many of the key areas that people find controversial, they completely ignored. So they just didn't look at the data on saturated fat. It was a prior assumption that it's bad. Just like cholesterol was bad because it's cholesterol, and cholesterol is bad, so don't eat cholesterol. Turned out that was not based on good science, and they overturned that in the 2015 guidelines, but they didn't look at the value of low carbohydrate diets, for example, in treating various conditions in diabetes. So they really ignored huge amounts of data, and they had a lot of corruption. So there's a new process involved. There was public comment. I reached out to my community to get them to comment. There were thousands of comments on the new guidelines for 2020. So hopefully it'll be a little better. This woman, Barbara Bowman, was the former director of CDC's Division for Heart Disease, Stroke, and Prevention. She was a former senior nutritionist for Coca-Cola, and she's a writer for ISLI, that group again, who was a big food industry front group. And she got called out through FOIA, again through the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, for collaborating with Coca-Cola and the American Beverage Association to influence the World Health Organization's guidelines around lowering sugar. Now, she shouldn't be doing this, but again, she got kicked out for that, or resigned. Now, all of you have seen these ads, got milk, right? Beef, it's what's for dinner. Pork, the other white meat. Now, we thought these were, marketing efforts by the food industry. Turns out, not so much. There's a program called the Checkoff Program, where the food industry gives money to the government, the USDA, to help them research and promote their products. Well, the research isn't really happening. It's more the promotion. So your taxpayer dollars paid for these got milk ads until, you notice they're not around anymore, right? Why do you think that is? Well, because the FTC, which governs truth in advertising, came out and said, where's the proof of all the claims you're making that milk is good for you? Does a body good, builds your bones, good for sports. They're like, there's no data. I wrote a blog a few years ago called Got Proof, which is, where's the proof? And there was a beautiful article in JAMA by David Ludwig and Walter Willett challenging the data. And Dr. David Ludwig was on a phone with a scientist who was on the committee and was saying, why are we telling in our dietary guidelines our citizens to drink 3 glasses of milk a day and kids to drink 2 glasses of milk a day? There's no science to back that up. He says, yeah, I know, but the Dairy Council is part of what we're doing, and we can't say that it's not. I mean, that's the level at which it's happening. FTC, again, does a good job in regulating some things, but not everything. I mean, we have unregulated food advertising to kids. I just talked to Kelly Brownell, who was at the Rudd Center for Policy at Yale. He said, we did a study of the dietary quality of cereals and marketing. So they found that the worst possible cereals had the most marketing dollars behind them, right? Nobody's advertising broccoli or almonds, right? But they're spending billions of dollars, literally billions of dollars promoting it. The average kid can recognize a brand name product and call it out in a grocery store when they're 2 years old. Kids can't tell the difference between reality and fiction on television until they're 8. My daughter, when she was about 9, said, Daddy, how come when I watch commercials on TV and then you see the thing in real life, it never looks the same? I was like, okay. Now, there's a lot of advertising and marketing, and there's some efforts to try to change that in California and San Francisco. They wanted warning labels on the front of these billboards that sugary drinks can kill you. Guess what? The American Beverage Association sued because this was not actually what they wanted. And they first lost, and then they appealed and won. Again, the average kid sees 6,000 ads or more for junk food every year on TV. I mean, if you talk to your kids 3 meals a day, gave them a lecture, it's still a lot. And that's just on TV. Not only that, there was a recent report published by Duke. Oh, no, it was by the Rudd Center, I think. It was a 147-page report on how the food industry targets poor minorities through advertising. They see far more ads, are more targeted to them, and it's driving more obesity. In fact, the African-American kid, the average kid who's African-American, consumes twice as much soda as a white kid. And, they're 80% more likely to get diabetes and so forth. And there's stealth advertising. You think this is an accident that on American Idol everybody's drinking Coca-Cola? You notice how the 2 ladies have straws because there's probably water in there, right? I once talked to a friend of mine who owned the Atlanta Hawks, And I said, why you guys, and he was into health and this